Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Live It Up. This is the show where we explore and discuss how to take your life to that next level and beyond. We cover health, wealth, relationships, and how to create a life you absolutely love. I'm your host and coach, Fletcher Ellingson. Amy will be joining us later in the show as we discuss the science of happiness. This is such a good topic, so stick around for the conversation. As a reminder, if you have questions that you would like us to address on or off the show, you can send them directly to me at fletcher@fletcherellingson.com. Okay, let's get to today's email question. It says, Fletcher, I'm 47 and feel like I have plateaued. I have a good job and things are fine at home, but everything just seems kind of boring or predictable or blah. I can't say that there is anything wrong specifically, but I don't feel happy. I'm not even sure what I feel. Any suggestions? Thanks, Steve. Hey, Steve, first of all, thanks for reaching out. I'm so glad that you sent this. Reaching out is always a sign of strength. You're not alone. Today, we're going to be talking about the science of happiness. And so it's going to be a really important topic for you and anybody else out there who has wondered or feels like I'm not happy or am I happy or not even sure what happiness is. Before we get into this topic, I want to let you know that you can go to my website, www.fletcherellingson.com, and go under the free tools. There you can fill out the happiness quotient quiz. And actually there's, I think it's 10 questions. It's easy to fill out. Fill that out and you'll actually get some feedback and it tells you how happy are you? How happy are you in your life? And along with that, I'll actually respond to you via email and give you some free advice. Again, that's at fletcherellingson.com. So we're going to take a quick break, but we're going to be back with Amy as we talk about the science of happiness. Again, a great topic, and there really are cool strategies that you can implement to make your life happier. And when we say science, some people say, gosh, is it really science? You're going to be surprised. So stick around, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Live It Up. We are here with Amy today, and we're talking about the science of happiness. Amy, you've talked to me a lot about the science of happiness, and what does that mean exactly? And you know, some people may question, is that if that can actually be scientific? So tell me about that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think when they first started studying it, it was kind of an odd concept to study happiness because people, I feel like, thought you either were born, oh, they've always been happy, or you're happy because your life circumstances allow you to be happy. But what a lot of scholars and scientists have found, and then there's a whole new field called positive psychology, they're really looking at happiness, and there is a methodology for happiness. There are certain things that people do that can consistently create an increased level of happiness in someone's life. So they call that the science of happiness. And with a lot of people suffering in our country from anxiety and depression and PTSD and other things that could be impacted by increasing the level of someone's happiness, it's a really important field.
Cool. Are you a happy person?
I'm a very happy person. I've always been pretty optimistic, and I think that people always just think like, oh, Amy's just always been that way, and I feel like I have, but yeah.
There are certain things, there are certain ingredients, right, to creating happiness. So let us know, what are some of those ingredients?
All right, well, I have a little ingredient list, and I'll just go through some of them. So one of them that scientists have found is when you savor the moment, savor the good moments. And you really, when you savor something, you want to really indulge in that feeling. And so that can look like either being very present in the moment, where you're with a loved one and you maybe, take a moment to really look in their eyes and really be with them and notice what's happening. It can be looking at a sunset or a flower or smelling a beautiful smell, petting your animal, really just being present and being aware of how that feels. The other thing that you can savor is by savoring the past, where you can look through old pictures or talk to someone about a memory that you loved. And when you do that, again, if you kind of can get your whole body involved, it helps, where you remember what maybe the smells were, what it felt like, what the sounds were, where you really are kind of savoring these beautiful moments. And the last way you can really savor is savoring something that hasn't happened yet. You can imagine gosh, what would that feel like when this happens? And you really want to, again, get your whole body involved in the experience of it. What's it going to feel like when you've saved up enough money to go to Costa Rica? Or what's it going to feel like when you are able to retire? Or whatever it may be, where you can actually live, you can actually savor in the future. So one of the first ingredients is savoring.
I love it. That's very similar to what I talk with a lot with my clients, is what you focus on, you feel, right? What you focus on, you experience. So if you're focusing on how wonderful this moment is, or that flower, or this story, you experience it at a deeper level, right?
Yeah, and so you actually can feel happy right in that moment, even though it might be something in your past, it might be something that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else have you got for us? What's another ingredient for happiness?
So the other one, a big one, is being thankful. Really having gratitude. And so I like this line where it talks about a modern day wonder drug, in the fact of you identifying things and then appreciating those. Whether you're appreciating something that someone's done for you, you're appreciating what you have in your life. But people that are more grateful and optimistic, or they're more grateful on a regular basis, have more optimism and self-confidence than those people who are not practicing gratitude. Practicing gratitude also helps counteract, I think, a pretty big force in our country of the focus on more and more and consumerism that we all experience. So having gratitude kind of cuts that desire of like, I want this, I want this, I want this, when you can be really, really happy in the moment. There was a study that was led that people that wrote gratitude letters to someone that they've never properly thanked, there was an immediate increase in their experience of happiness and a decrease in depressive symptoms. There is another study that's shown that practicing gratitude can increase happiness levels of around 25%. Or keeping a gratitude journal of for 3 weeks or more creates an effect that lasts months and months. And studies that show that people that practice gratitude will have better sleep and sleep longer. So there are lots of books out there that help you with gratitude. It's kind of a buzzword these days, is practicing gratitude. But again, like you talked about, your focus. If you all of a sudden go from what am I getting, what's happening for me, or gosh, I wish I had this, or I wish I had that, or how come they treated me like that? If you were able to switch your mind over to gratitude, your brain chemistry changes immediately, and all those the neurotransmitters in your brain that are responsible for calm and for happiness will increase when you focus on something that makes you feel good.
Yeah. And I love what you say, it's a practice of gratitude. It's just not just being happy or thankful one time. It really is a practice, meaning that, well, one of the things that I remember you and I did a couple years ago was, do you remember when it was either on your phone, I believe, your phone, you put a timer for like every hour or every 90 minutes. And I remember we were in Seattle, and every hour or 90 minutes your phone went off, and we took that moment and focus on something to be grateful for.
Yeah.
And that was interrupting our pattern in our day, and that's like a practice of gratitude. In the mornings I have a book, it's called The Self Journal, and it's a bit of great practice for me because it starts the day off with me writing down what I'm grateful for. And it also ends the evening with what I'm grateful for. So there's a level of intentionality that creates a practice of it. And if you want to experience more joy in your life, joy really springs from gratitude. You can't really experience joy without that level of gratitude. So it's the practice of.
Yeah, and I think the other way of gratitude, and our children know this, is sometimes when one of my kids will be focused on something they don't have or they didn't get or something that didn't happen, my consequence to that is I have them write 10 things they're grateful for. And then I ask them, how was that for you? And it shifts their focus from something. So it's really good for kids too. It's a wonderful way, or say there's a big change in their life, say there's been a divorce or a separation or a move, focusing on gratitude, writing them together at night is really huge.
Yeah. All right, we have time for one more before we go to a commercial break.
So the other one is feeling hopeful and having a sense of purpose. So there have been multiple studies that people that create meaning in their lives are happier and more satisfied. And then a person's level of hope is shown to correlate with how well they perform in life. So really, so whether that's goal setting or having a higher purpose, whether it's a spiritual purpose, whether it's more of a manifesting something at your job or in your family, but really creating a sense of purpose and then having hope, then there's something to look forward to, something to work toward. People that live like that will also experience a greater level of happiness. So not being afraid to brainstorm and dream and what am I working toward in this life? And maybe it's to have a legacy of a certain type in your family, or maybe it's to be able to, it doesn't have to be a materialistic goal. It could be anything you can think of, but going on that path with purpose is also helpful.
Absolutely. The purpose-driven life, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Hey, we're going to take a break. We'll be back in just a moment to talk more about happiness. Stay with us. Hey everyone, welcome back to Live It Up. I'm Fletcher, this is Amy, we're your hosts, and today we're talking about the science of happiness. We left off, you were giving some ingredients for creating happiness in your life, and what else you got in that ingredient list?
All right, well, the other ingredient is giving. So it's clear that when you give to others, it makes them happy. But the other thing that most of us know when we do something for others, and as the science shows it, that the person, the giver, actually has more benefits than the receiver. There's numerous studies that show that being kind not only makes us less stressed, isolated, and angry, it reduces all of those feelings, but it also makes us feel happier, more connected with the world, and more open to new experiences. There was a study where students were asked to commit 5 random acts of kindness. Things just came to you and you did. Mm-hmm. You did that each week for 6 weeks. And the people who engaged in acts of kindness over those 6 weeks experienced a 42% increase in happiness. So this is where where the science comes in. You can actually study this. The people that are you can say, what causes happiness? Oh, these things cause happiness. And therefore it becomes a science with a bit of an ingredient list. So yeah, that's basically the giving. There's multiple studies that show that they've done studies where if you spend money on someone, the person that actually buys the thing and gives it for someone else has more happiness than the person that is receiving it. So depression can be reduced, well-being is increased, happiness is increased. So it's really important to think about creating that, again, a practice of me either doing one random act of kindness every day or doing them multiple times a week. You could leave a dollar bill on someone's windshield. You could pay for someone's coffee. You can, I know you've done these over the years, mm-hmm. and it feels really good. And you can even just imagine what that person is going to experience when they feel that.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, one of the things that I'll frequently tell people if they're in a funk or depressed or like, woe is me, I'll encourage them to go get involved with a charity or go donate some time. Go get involved with something that an organization that's got bigger problems than yourself. And in that act of giving, and you're going to be connecting with people, you're going to feel like you have purpose, and suddenly your own problems seem to kind of diminish.
Yeah. Yeah, so giving, and then the last one is having empathy. So having empathy would be defined as your ability to care about others, to imagine and understand the thoughts and behaviors and emotions of other people. And so if you care about the relationships in your life, which everyone does, learning the skill of empathy really can pay off. When studies have also shown that when we have empathy for people, when we empathize with them, the person who's having the empathy will become less judgmental, less frustrated, less angry, less disappointed, and we develop patience for what's happening. So because strong relationships are also a key to having happiness, and there have been studies that show that as well, that people that have strong community connections have improved health, they live longer, that having empathy really allows you to have more healthy relationships. So spending some time really listening to people in your life, really trying to understand what they're going through. I feel like you can also develop empathy through reading books, through watching documentaries, really understanding what's going on over there. You might have all of us have preconceived notions of what might be going on over there, even with someone like your boss or someone you historically have pigeonholed to be a certain way. then when you actually develop empathy for them and maybe ask how it's going, or maybe how might that be for them, or you find out they're going through something hard, it allows you to have empathy.
Yeah, I love that. Especially what I appreciate about it is what you said is empathy allows you to set aside your judgments, and because our judgments get in the way so much, and then we create these stories. So having empathy, yeah, understanding what it's like for that other person, great stuff.
Yeah. We're going to take another commercial break right now.
Okay.
Right? So
Stick around. We'll be right back with more of The Science of Happiness. Welcome back to Live It Up. We're talking about the science of happiness. And we've talked about the ingredients, what makes up happiness, but tell me, why do you think this works?
Well, the reason I think it works, and people maybe don't really realize this, but it works because it changes, in my mind, it changes the chemistry in your brain. Literally, it changes the levels and concentration and how active certain neurotransmitters are in your brain, and those are the chemicals that are working in our brains. So what people maybe don't understand, you say you take an example of a medication for depression. People maybe think that you take a medicine to give your body something it doesn't have, but most of the medications that we take are actually just helping our body release the chemicals that our bodies already have. So when you take an antidepressant, you already have serotonin in your brain. The medication just has the serotonin be available in the receptor for a longer period of time. So it, in fact, makes our brains act like we have more serotonin around. But we already have the serotonin. So if you can do things that release the feel-good hormones, which are serotonin, dopamine, Pitocin in our bodies, then we already have like a built-in pharmacy in our brain. And so if we can do things that can harness our built-in pharmacy, then you can create feelings like happiness and satisfaction and joy, and you can minimize feelings of depression and anxiety, being able to do that. They've done some experiences experiments like you and I have watched that one TED Talk about the superhero pose,
Yes.
Where you stand up and you put your hands on your hips, and if you do that for 2 minutes, it literally changes the chemistry in your body. Your cortisol levels go down, testosterone goes up. They talk about also like the CEO pose, where you put your hands behind your head and your feet up on the table. You take up a lot of space. It's kind of like an alpha position. You end up releasing more of the neurotransmitters in your brain that can help have you feel more powerful and more happy. So that's actually something you can do before a meeting. Take some deep breaths, put your hands on your hip, puff up your chest, and really feel the power that you have. So That's why I think it works, is because it changes the chemistry in your body.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
As a physician, why do you care about this?
Well, that's a pretty huge one. I mean, I see so many people that are unhealthy and they don't feel good. They're tired, they're depressed, they might be anxious, they don't sleep well. They end up making poor decisions for themselves too, because then they don't eat right because they're trying to kind of medicate because they feel so bad. They can't sleep, so they want to take sleeping pills, and they're tired and they want to use caffeine, or they're using nicotine to help with anxiety. So for me, people that can learn how to create their own happiness and have a dose of happiness in their life can really reduce all of these kind of chronic things that nag at people, like poor sleep, fatigue, depression, anxiety. And there have been studies that people having a positive psychological well-being can decrease heart disease about up to 20%. It can decrease blood pressure and heart rate variability. Feelings of happiness are associated with improved mobility. They've shown people that are happier people tend to make better choices in their diet. They tend to eat more vegetables and a higher fiber diet. They've definitely done studies looking at levels of happiness and optimism, and people feel satisfied and fulfilled in life, have a lower level of inflammation in their body, and they can fight the common cold more easily. Also, when you have a lot of stress in your body, you have a higher cortisol level, which leads to weight gain and the inability to lose weight. So people would definitely be happier, healthier, make better choices if they can cultivate that practice of happiness.
Yeah, again, it makes a lot of sense. Thanks for that information. In closing, is there anything else that you want us to know?
Yeah, well, this is there's a lot of good resources. I want to tell people there's a website called happify.com. It's HAPPIFY.com. And then there's a great documentary called Happiness. And I just want everyone to know that really, again, this is a practice. And like Fletcher experiences with his coaching clients, that when you can start putting this into practice in your life and making it something that you write down that you're going to do this certain number of days a week, you really will start to see results. And that goes along with my commitment to everybody that wellness is available to everybody, and that I'm here to help people create a body where vitality, health, and happiness are possible.
Cool. Thanks, Amy. All right, guys, that's it for our show today. It's time to get out there now and be a source of kindness, be a source of contribution. You have something to offer this world. You matter, you have worth, and we believe in you.